Hey, why can't I lose weight and keep it off? It's simple. It's not about how many calories you take in, it's what kind of calories you take in and what that does to your body. Hey, this is Pastor Scott Tom, and welcome into Christian Keto. We're going to dive into this video, and we're not going to go as long as we usually do, but I want to give you just an explanation, just a simple overview of why we gain weight and why it's so hard to get it off. If you're like the average American and you put on a few pounds, well, not even the average American, around the world now, right? You've gained that weight and you're like, man, I try to get it off, and I've tried Jenny Craig, and I've done Weight Watchers, and then I've tried like the starch diet and the potato diet and the rice diet and the soup diet, and you're like, I've done just about everything I've tried. So if you're trying to do that, let me tell you, it is not your fault. You are being taught and told something that is actually causing you to be fat and oftentimes unhealthy. And we don't want that, right? Nobody wants that. There's a few of us that just won't quit smoking or won't do it. We know we're hurting ourselves. We're not going to do it. But for the most part, most people have in earnest worked out hard, right? You've eaten less, you've starved yourself, you've done shakes, or you've done, protein bars, and you've worked out really hard and you've dropped some weight, and you're like, yes, but it's next to impossible to sustain because you're in a constant state of calorie deprivation, right? You're starving yourself. And your hormones and your body screaming at you, you got to eat. And then oftentimes we end up, eating not the healthiest foods when we're just like, okay, I'm going to give in, right? Or you have these emotional highs or up and downs. Or something happens in life, or you're visiting someone, or you're on vacation, and then all of a sudden you're off the diet. And it's near impossible to stay on it because you are, in a sense, causing your body to panic. And here's the answer to that. So why isn't it the amount of calories? Because the amount of calories make little difference if you're having the wrong type of calories, because it's not about the amount of energy going in and the amount of energy going out. It's about the energy that's coming in that spikes your insulin. We all know this, but we haven't put it together, right? Certain starches, pastas, we know make you fat, but why? Because they spike our insulin. Insulin is the anabolic state. Insulin comes up, it does so many things, but it causes an anabolic state, which means that it's in building mode, it's in storing mode. So let's build more cells. Let's store this stuff. Let's store fat. So insulin is the trigger that stores just about any kind of calorie, carbohydrates, fructose, fat. That if you're not burning it enough, it's going to say, hey, let's store it, because it's got to balance your blood sugar. It's critical that it does that. When insulin is high because you're eating frequently, like they tell you to eat smaller meals, but 6 times a day keeps your metabolism up. Absolutely wrong. Your metabolism actually goes down, your insulin stays up, so any excess calories that you would have during the day goes to fat storage. Now, when insulin comes down, well, what causes insulin to go up? Sugars, carbohydrates, anything. And we're told to eat a high carbohydrate diet. So if you're eating lots of pastas, you're eating lots of healthy whole grains, right? You're eating lots of granola. This is very healthy. You're drinking your fruit drinks. Don't drink your fruit. Eat your fruit. I'll do a whole video on that. But if you're doing that, insulin's always up and it stays pegged, and what happens is your pancreas who produces the insulin, starts to get damaged a little bit and it overreacts. Your liver causes it to shoot out more insulin. You have a longer insulin load, so it never comes down between meals and hardly at all at night. And what happens is you just can't get rid of the extra weight because insulin stores it. It cannot unstore it until insulin decreases. Glucagon, your other hormone, is the catabolic hormone. It comes up when you're fasting, when you're hungry, when you have an empty stomach, when your insulin load comes down after, if you're healthy, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? Then when your other hormone comes up, you go to a catabolic state, which repairs, restores, and it unstores things. It pulls from storage. So if insulin is always up because of what you're eating and drinking, you can't lose the weight, right? So what you try to do is you try to work out real hard, take your calories down, and what happens is, why do I lose weight? Well, you're in a calorie restriction, so you're basically starving yourself slowly, and it comes down, and you know what happens is your metabolism doesn't go up, even though you're working out. Your metabolism thinks, because you're so smart, body, soul, and spirit, God designed your body. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. So your body goes, uh-oh, we're not getting much food now. What would you do? You would ration, right? You're like, okay, because your body works towards perfection and efficiency and protecting you in the long run. So if you're not getting enough food and it wants to keep, your body functions going right, what is it going to do? It's going to conserve, right? It's going to shrink that. Your metabolism will go down. On the other hand, that's why a ketogenic diet is so effective, is it mimics a catabolic state. It mimics fasting. And so your body goes into these systems and says, we don't need all this. Let's get rid of it. And it just starts burning off fat, even though you're not calorie restricting. Even though you're getting more calories with eating more fat, you begin to lose the weight. Because your body's like, hey, we're not starving. We don't need this. Let's get rid of it. Let's put it this way. If you were having salads with broccoli and X amount of calories, and you had the same amount of calories, X amount of calories eating gummy bears, are you healthier or not as healthy? Are you thinner or not as thin, right? It just makes sense. A calorie isn't just a calorie. It's what type of calorie, right? Also, if you were eating the same diet, let's say I'm eating something and I can't get this weight off. I'm struggling. I'm trying whatever. And they're just like, dude, you're a glutton. Don't eat so much. And you're like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix this. But then you have someone right next to you just eating the same diet, the same amount of calories in the same house, and they're skinny as a stick. And you're like, wait a minute. If calories make you fat, how come this person eating the exact same amount of calories, the exact same foods, is not getting fat? And the answer is insulin. They are more insulin sensitive. Their insulin doesn't stay up as long. As your body gets abused with carbohydrates and other things, it starts producing more insulin. The longer the insulin stays up, you're storing, right? So that person, their insulin comes up when they eat, and it plummets real fast. It's not about metabolism. You could have the exact same metabolic rate, just he's metabolically healthier than you are. The only difference, it's not calories. It's what your body does with the calories you're taking in, what type of calories you're taking in. A lot of carbohydrates, a lot of sugars, a lot of pastas, breads, these kind of things, candies, French fries, then you're going to have a lot of insulin flowing in your body all the time. You're eating broccoli, you're eating red meat, you're eating lamb, you're eating fish. Those things barely at all spike your insulin. Insulin goes up almost any time you eat. But with fats and with proteins, it's a very small rise. Matter of fact, sometimes with fat and protein, you'll get just a very small bump, and then it'll plummet even more. So why do I put on weight, and why is it so hard to get off? The answer, insulin. Because we all know that you try and you restrict and you get a gym membership and you eat healthy and you can shed some, but after a while it doesn't go away. It's not as easy, right? Well, I guess I'm just getting old, metabolism. No, the answer is because your insulin's staying up longer and longer and longer. Now the problem is you become diabetic when your pancreas can't keep up with it. So it's pushing it out, it's starting to get damaged, maybe fat is being pushed into your pancreas, it's your alpha cells in your pancreas are starting to burn out, or the rest of your body starts to like not listen to insulin so much, like that neighbor knocking at your door all the time, and you become insulin resistant. It's a little more complex than that. There's some damage to the insulin receptors and things like that, but you get the idea, right? I was doing that. I purposely cut back to 2 meals and a snack. So I purposely cut back to 300, between 250 and 350 calories a day. I took a deficit from what I was eating. I was able to maintain, before that, I was able to maintain a weight, albeit heavy, right? But I could maintain that weight. So theory goes, if I reduce that and I work out more, I should lose weight. I reduced my calorie intake about 300 calories a day. I increased my workouts from a half hour, 3 to 4 times a week, to a full hour, 3 to 4 to 5 times a week of cardio, plus an extra 15 minutes of weights. I would go down 2 or 3 pounds and then bingo, be right back up. It's like, and I did that faithfully for like 6 months. But after you find this information, you're like, duh, I'm still eating. I'm not eating like, I'm not going through bags of chips and things like that. I'm eating a lot of salads, a lot of salmon, eating a lot of chicken, no skin on the chicken. You know, what they tell you to do. I'm just not dropping it. Why? Excuse me, because that very reason. So now you know what makes you gain weight and why you can't get it off. How do you fix it? The ketogenic diet. Think of it as a biblical diet, because everything that is prescribed in a ketogenic diet is in almost everything, right? If they tell you eat alligator or eat squirrel and stuff, no, God says no, right? Don't eat bats, don't eat snakes. We find that out in China, right? You get all these viruses coming from China. God says, don't eat these things, you won't get those diseases. So everything in that is low glycemic, that what God prescribes. Yeah, there are other things that you can eat, but heal your body first, get to your desired weight, and then add a little bit of carbs till you find out what your threshold is. If you start putting on weight, you keep your carbs lower and let your body continue to heal. And you may have to stay on a low-carb diet, which generally is a biblical diet, but I'm talking lower carb, like under 50, maybe even ketogenic the rest of your life. But that's okay. It's not that hard. And there's so many substitutes that you barely give up anything. So that's why that happens. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, don't do anything about it. Not a single thing. Like, don't hit that red button. Like, just go on. Don't share this with family and friends who might need this, or don't do that, because that probably the nicest thing you could do is not share it. No, please subscribe and share. All right, God bless you. Love you guys. See you next time.